We've decided to tell my parents and our children about my affair. To make a long tale short, I cheated on my spouse for 9 months. He walked in on my AP and myself in our marital bed in May 2020. He evicted me for 3 days, burnt the bed, allowed me return home, and decided to give me another opportunity. We've been together for 22 years, married for 21, and have 3 children, 13 and 10 boys, 7 girls. I'll save you the details. If you're curious in our narrative, check out my post history. Our anniversary was on January 1st, and we spent the weekend bonding on a level we hadn't done in our whole marriage. To put it mildly, it was an interesting weekend. We spoke a lot about how we evolved in the 7 months since D-Day. Remember, we'd been practicing IC and MC every week since. This was the first time we'd sat down and spoken without a mediator, and I had to confront how much I actually hurt him. We didn't hold back and didn't pull any punches. And yeah, hearing him remark that he'll never look at me the same way again was awful. But he did tell me that he still loves me, that he's still in love with me, and that our second anniversary of our new marriage will be on January 1st, 2022. One based on openness and honesty. Over the weekend, another subject came up. One that I dreaded but knew was inevitable. My spouse chose not to notify any of my family about my affair on his own, and he instructed me not to tell them either. In my family, I'm known as the angel. I came from a typical Southern Christian family, and my precious daughter who could do no wrong. Needless to say, no one in my family will take it well. I'm 40 years old and I'm still afraid of how my mom and father may respond. But after some soul-searching, we've concluded that the time has come for me to face the music. We can't go on with the reconciliation until everyone knows the truth. As of now, the only people who are aware of my adultery are myself, my husband, my closest friend, with whom I remained after he booted me out, his parents, who he informed the day of, and of course my app, who has long since left the picture. We also agreed that we would inform our children. We're sure they've sensed the tension between us in recent months, particularly our eldest. It's time they knew so we can educate them that my acts were bad, and that they can learn from my mistakes and not do them again. We'll have the conversation with the kids tonight after dinner and inform my parents when we see them this weekend. I don't have to tell you how afraid I am of this. I realize it's my cross to bear. I deceived my spouse in the most heinous manner conceivable, thus I have no right to refuse this penance. But I'm still worried about the result. My father and mother adore my hubby. He's the son my father never had since I have 3 sisters and no brothers. I'm crying just thinking about their disappointment. And don't even get me started on my sisters, particularly my oldest. They're not going to be kind to you. I know they all love me, and their sadness and harshness will be motivated by that love. But revealing this to them will be difficult. Still, it must be done in order for us to go on, and my spouse will be there by my side, holding my hand, like he promised. I'm not asking for guidance or anything else. I simply wanted to get something out there into the universe. I know there are a few people out there that are engaged in our narrative and cheering for our success. This is simply another step in the long journey of helping him recover and healing myself. Thank you for taking the time to read this. Quit editing. We're not going to tell the youngsters everything. They are aware that things have been difficult between us. We'll simply sit them down and tell them that we're both going through a tough time and that we're sorry if our actions over the previous several months have made them unhappy or uncomfortable. That we're trying to figure out what's going on between us and that everything will be okay. Edit 2. After additional deliberation, we changed our minds about the choice. We gathered the kids and I told them that I had done something to harm their father months before, and that was why we had been acting funny around each other, as our 10-year-old would put it. We reassured them that everything would be all right, and that even adults sometimes make wrong decisions. They didn't have many inquiries since they were typically understanding, so that's one barrier out of the way. We've also agreed that, as far as notifying my parents is concerned, given that we seem to be on the right track in terms of mending our marriage, it's probably better to keep my affair between us. Because my guilt is still getting the best of me, I was the one who pushed for informing them. Oh, noticed some of your remarks and had second thoughts about doing it. and he was able to persuade me that it wasn't necessary. Story 2. I, 24 female, believe my husband, 26 male, is emotionally cheating. I've been married to my hubby for 3.5 years. When we married, I had my own business and earned far more money than he did. Nothing mattered to him/us. After 2 years, he was ordered to relocate, active duty, across the nation, from one coast to the other coast. We chatted, and I promised to shut my company, follow him, and return to school for 3 years while he was there. Essentially, you'll be a stay-at-home mom/full-time online student. This occurred at the beginning of COVID. This relocation also happened soon after I was hurt, and I now have a chronic injury that will never heal/requires surgery, and from which I suffer excruciating agony on a daily basis. I disliked where we relocated because I was miserable and gaining weight. He would go on trainings for months at a time, and I was alone and in agony dealing with school and looking into other occupations that I could easily quit for him. We had purchased a home. We got several new pets. While he was away on training, I took care of our home and finances. Then I inserted a year. I couldn't take it any longer. The life of waiting at home for my spouse didn't work for me. I needed to be more efficient. So we chatted. He realized how poorly I was doing, and we decided that I would return to my coast and try out a new job without him, find a location I want to be, and he would follow to finish his own study to go officer. As a result, I did, and I was prospering, finally meeting gal pals, starting a new job I liked, and moving into an apartment with a great view where I felt at home and in love. But our friendship was strained. He became distant. He had promised to write me letters. He enjoys writing, but had never done so. We had vowed to go on remote dates, but the first time I attempted to organize one, he managed to screw up and not book tickets on his end in time. So I watched a movie alone. We chatted every day, but less and less. A month later, I had to emergency relocate to assist my family's company. In less than 24 hours, I uprooted my whole existence in my new city to return to the location of my family's company. My family manages it remotely and does not reside nearby. Thus, I was abandoning my friends to go someplace I'd be alone again. I stayed in motels before getting a new residence. My long-standing injury was worsening. The new role needed 12-18-hour days to restore the damage caused by the former boss. But once again, my salary was fantastic. Then my conversations with my hubby grew monotonous. He didn't put out any effort. There was no romance, flirtation, or extended phone or video chats. There hadn't been one since I left, but I started bringing it up now. We decided to have him come to town for the holidays. Then he came to visit, and things became tense. We've never been a fighting couple, but we did quarrel. He constantly criticizing himself for not trying hard enough, but then failing to change or do what he promised to assist the relationship. Then he abruptly said, "If you want a divorce, that's great. Maybe I've been done for a few weeks too." That lingered with me, even after we made up, and appeared to be well for a few days. So I did the unthinkable and looked through his phone. I came home from work to find him passed out drunk, my house a shambles, and no tasks completed, and I snapped. I was curious about what occurred a few weeks ago. So I come across a communication he's been having with a former military female, married, coworker who lives on my coast actually, so there is still the time difference. There is nothing, no I love like yous, but only really intimate and emotional discussions regarding deceased family members and childhood issues. Things I didn't realize I didn't know about my hubby. Then I see the messages from people who are upset with me. I lied about facts in order to get compassion from her. I was supposedly on antidepressants and was a terror when I came off of them. The fact was that I had used anti-anxiety medicine for a month in order to overcome my phobia of flying in order to see him while he was on training. According to reports, he has to pay off $10,000 of my credit card debt. The fact is that I relocated my whole life for him, lost my income, and had to pay for school on my own, while he continued to live his life as if my income still existed. I spent so little money on myself, while he got anything he wanted whenever he wanted. To top it all off, they would phone each other in the midst of these discussions. Conversations can last an hour or more, every now and again. longer and more often than he ever did for me by a long shot. He was always too busy or tired to talk for more than 10 or so minutes. As a result, I called him out on it. He maintains it's not emotional infidelity since he now views her platonically and as a sister and feels awful for her. Then I urged him to consider it from my point of view and in my shoes, and after an hour of contemplation, he now understands it may seem horrible and that he would ask me to remove her and ban her from his life. Which, to be honest, I don't feel compelled to do. Maybe I'm past the romance, or maybe I'm simply not vengeful. I'd rather he contact her and confess he lied and warped things to seek compassion from her, and that his actions so far, although not based on the messages, are nevertheless inappropriate between two mature married people. But I'm at a loss as to how to go with the connection. He's leaving in a week, and there's nothing preventing him from coming back and doing it all over again, perhaps even worse.